I don't have a lot of stimuli on my channel. I just want to let you guys know this. I don't have lots of things popping up on my screen. I hope that's okay with you. I hope you just throw me in your pocket and listen. Hello, everybody. Thank you for showing up. We're going to be talking about Quant. And now that we know that Quant is not being abandoned by its developers, that developers are not running out the doors trying to get rid of this project and shove it under the rug, as per my last video, which I highly recommend you check out, go into that comment section and contest some of the bad mouthers in there, because there's a lot of people who are misinformed. So go check that out. And if you guys like this video, because this video is going to be a bullish analysis on Quant concerning Project Rosalind, which is arguably one of the biggest, strongest points of Quant and its networking patterns, share this with a friend that doesn't like Quant or that is misinformed on Quant, and let them know that this is why Quant is good. So yes, guys, we're going to be carrying on with Project Rosalind. So, what is Project Rosalind? Project Rosalind is a project led, or rather was led, it is actually concluded. Project Rosalind is led by the BIS, which is the Bank of International Settlements. If you don't know who the Bank of International Settlements is, here it is. The BIS is a organization or a congregation of many central banks. Now, central banks, most notably in this case, the Bank of England, are banks that control monetary policy for their countries. So we're going to be talking about the Bank of England and the BIS because they are the partners that have actually worked on Project Rosalind together. Now, some examples of other central banks that are involved with the BIS would be the Federal Reserve, that's obviously of the United States. We have the Eurozone, European Central Bank, the Bank of England from the United Kingdom, of course, the Bank of Japan, the People's Bank of China, Australia, Canada, India, Brazil, and South Africa. So we have quite a few banks that are involved in the BIS. They're a very powerful unit. They're a very powerful organization. And it is amazing that they actually led the Project Rosalind, which Quant is directly involved in. Now, the crazy thing about Project Rosalind, and we're going to be talking about what Project Rosalind really is aiming for, and it's the fact that they're really aiming for complying with regulation and policy. They're aiming for interoperability and API integration, and of course, ease of use. That's kind of what I would establish everything as. So let's start with what they're doing with how to improve public and private sector collaboration. Now, this can be interpreted in two ways. That is going to be the collaboration between private sector like government and public sector like Quant. So it is the collaboration of getting these crypto companies to come together with the CBDC enforcers, which would be the government, and creating something that is secure, strong, private, and useful. And so that is really what is being focused on in this project, is creating that cohesion between the public and private sectors. The really cool thing about this is if you watched my video, which I'll probably have in the top left right here, right now, this video was about how Quant has been putting itself in such an amazing position for advisory and regulatory policy making. They've actually been putting themselves in places like integrating with UK finance. They have been integrating with ISO, International Organization of Standardization, which is a very large company that makes standards for this kind of thing, including blockchain. You're probably familiar with ISO 222. And ISO TC 307 is what Gilbert Verdian, the founder of Quant, has actually made himself. And Paolo Tasca is actually on the advisory for ISO. So they have really positioned themselves in this space of regulatory policy making. And it really matters a lot, because if they can control the policy and regulation, then they can incorporate aspects of Quant or things that Quant already has integrated into these policies. That's why it's so amazing. Right? And so I really go over that in that video, so check it out. I had put it up here. Maybe I'll put it here again. I don't know. But yeah. So yeah, basically Quant has put itself in that position, and they are more than capable of being that company that is going to be able to make that integration. Now, I want to let you guys know that it is insane for me to imagine that people aren't really talking about this news, because this news is so imperative if you're involved in the crypto space. If any other coin, say Ripple, XRP, Stellar Lumens, if any of them have been put in this position where they were integrating with the BIS, or they were in a research project with the BIS and Bank of England per se, people would be screaming up the walls about this news. But that's because there's so many influencers and so many people marketing this and pushing this narrative. That is why that news gets so pushed, and nobody's really talking about Quant. That's why people don't understand Quant. And so my job now is to push this information so you guys can see. Quant is actually working with the BIS, or had worked with the BIS, and also have worked with people in UK finance, which is... Anyways, the point is, go watch that video and you'll figure it out. So the next thing that they really were working on with Project Rosalind is increasing trust and adoption. So they need to figure out methods of which they can get the trust of the people and the adoption. Now, this is a sticky one. This is a really, really sticky one. Because the problem with this is people understand that if currency becomes purely digital and is put on blockchain or is put on a DLT technology, well, now what's going to happen is every transaction is going to be able to be tracked and programmed. And so there's problems such as not being able to buy certain things. That will be a government control that's potentially available. There will be taxes will be taken from your account automatically. Your every transaction will be able to be documented, which it basically already is, but on a distributed ledger technology, which is able to hold much more data. And so there's going to be so many different government controls and things that people are going to be real nervous about this. But like I always say, CBDCs might seem a little dystopian, but I don't create the future. You probably don't create the future. And so are you going to live in fairyland where you hope CBDCs don't take over, and so you don't don't invest and you don't pick that side? Or are you going to just say, okay, I don't really choose the future, but if I had to choose the future, this is probably the best one I can invest in. Let's choose that. So what I'm saying is, if you don't like CBDCs, too bad. That's where the world's going. And so in the case of Quant, there's a big problem here where there's a lot of stigma on us because we're the coin that went from like DeFi operating system for blockchain to not DeFi centralized operating system for CBDCs. And so a lot of people tend to hate on us, but that's not the point. When we invest, when we are doing business, whatever it is, we're not going to pick and invest in the thing that we think looks cool. We're not going to pick or invest in the thing that we like most. We're going to go through all of the stats. We're going to analyze it quantitatively, and we're going to invest in the best potential product, the best potential asset, the best potential security, whatever it is. We're going to invest in that because we know it's going to win. We're not going to live in fairyland, right? And so in this case, yeah, it sucks that Quant is, in pushing CBDCs, but that's what makes it so great because we know the world is going in that direction. Now, who knows? We could hit the utopian side. We could hit the utopian side of CBDCs and everything will be good. That is one of the reasons that these people are getting together and doing things like Project Rosalind, right? Because they want to make sure that we are going to trust them and it can be adopted. If there is too many government controls, the people won't accept it. It won't work. And so keep that in mind as well. There is a positive side to all this. Anyways, let's carry on. We're going to explore use cases. That's what Project Rosalind wants to do next. And so obviously one of those things is going to be government controls like we just talked about, taxes, tracking all the money in and out. Data collection is going to be huge for seeing what people buy in certain areas, demographics, etc. And then obviously a huge one and one of the biggest reasons for transitioning to CBDCs is going to be fraud protection and money laundering prevention. That's going to be really, really huge. And basically, the one big thing that government is not liking is this big open funnel. Not really a funnel. It's like a really open playground for people to get into the crypto space and to get out and be able to money launder, right? They're able to, you can get a bunch of sketchy money, buy a bunch of Bitcoin, take that money out somewhere else, and it's all clean. And so there's a lot of money laundering going on. Basically, what I presume is going to happen, and what a lot of these things that they're probably talking about in these meetings when it comes to things like Project Rosalind, is they're probably talking about funneling and being the gatekeeper for this world of cryptocurrency, right? If the only way you can get crypto is to go through a CBDC, through government controls, well, then they're going to know that you bought their coin and then use that to buy your Bitcoin, which you use to buy said illicit substances. You see what I'm saying? And so there's going to be a very there's going to be a tighter restriction on how you're getting into the space. So if you have money that's already in crypto, that to an extent couldn't. Anyways, I'm gonna cut myself off there, but you know what I'm saying. So yes, I think one of the things that they're going to be incorporating as far as use cases is funneling that, but also a really fun one that is going to be created is customer ease of use. So I guess one really good beneficial thing that they're discussing is ease of use, which is going to be things like peer-to-peer transfers. We won't have to go through things like Venmo. I know in Canada, here in Canada, we have e-transfer, which we can do through our banks, but even that is slow. There's lots of people it has to go through and checks that it has to go through. Wouldn't it be nice if those transfers were absolutely instant, and not only that, worldwide? Oof, that would be phenomenal. If you have family abroad, well, now you can send that money instantly to them. And not only that, you can do things like atomic swaps, which will make it so you can turn your USD per se into CAD instantly. So if you have Canadian family or in the US, switch it instantly. Boom, they get their Canadian dollars rather than getting your stinky USD. Or if you want to send it to, I don't know, some Eastern European country who has their own unique whatever it is, you could send it to Russia, you could send it to China, you could send it to Africa, you could send it wherever, and you could have some kind of swap that would initiate instantly, and everything would work very, very fast. That is one of the other main reasons that this is being promoted, is because of the ease of just the whole financial industry and the movement of money. Now, you imagine all these financial institutions and banks have a lot of people that are being paid lots and lots of money to handle these transactions on a daily basis. Now imagine if that was all automated. Well, one, you're going to lose a lot of jobs, right? There's going to be a lot of job loss. But two, those institutions are going to make a lot more money because they have to pay a lot less people, and things are going to be a lot more streamlined, right? So they're going to have a competitive edge on competitors who don't adopt this. And so that's another reason for this big push, right? And so, and you'll realize in the way I'm talking, I'm saying there's lots of good things and I'm saying there's lots of bad things. I'm not biased to a side. I'm just saying what is true, right? And so let's continue. Basically, it's going to be that is the incentive for banks to continue on with CBDCs. They're going to make more money, and they're going to have a competitive edge, and it's going to make everything easy and more streamlined for them, as well as us, which is good. Now, the cool thing is we're going to have different kinds of programmability that's going to be able to take place within retail. So if you have a business or rather if you have a series of complex scheduled payments you want to be able to initiate each month or each year or something like that, it'll be fully transparent. You can have a nice UI, and you'll be able to build basically programmable and smart contracts that will initiate automatically, which can streamline so much. And there's like an infinite amount of things that you could do with that isn't really possible right now. And so that's a really big part of open banking that's going to take place, because open banking is basically the ability to interact using APIs to banks and be able to program and do stuff like that to streamline processes like getting payments, receiving payments, etc. But this takes it to the next level. This is amazing. Like, this is like, you could have such complex payment systems and things like that, and it's going to really change the world, and it's really going to change like everything. I think it'll even change subscription models. Subscription models have been ruling the world for forever. Things like Netflix, YouTube Premium, all of that has been really conquering the world. So with smarter finance, we're going to see some new stuff, I think. So that's an exciting thing. But yeah, obviously the sad side of it is we might lose some jobs in the finance industry. The last thing that Project Rosalind has done is obviously experimenting and prototyping. So there's going to be a lot of problems that pop up with this. And this is why somebody like Gilbert Verdian is so powerful and so integral to this system, is because Gilbert Verdian has so much experience in security and so much experience in this entire industry as a whole. And so he has worked, like we've talked about a million times, in healthcare. He's worked in security for things like the Federal Reserve and the Bank of England. He's worked all across the board with these things in very powerful positions, and he knows a lot. And so when it comes to security, with Quant and Overledger, he has actually integrated safe bridges and a lot of security protocols that banks and financial institutions are in awe over, that other products and other projects can't achieve. Because he's had so much experience, he's able to create these things within Overledger. And so one of the big problems for CBDCs is, are we sure it's going to be secure within 10 years, within 100 years, within 1,000 years? Is the financial system, is this the right move to make? Or is there going to be a hacker who comes in and steals the entire economy, you know? And so that's the big question. Can we make sure this is safe and has no leaks? That's why it takes so long. And that's why Quant is such a beautiful long-term hold, is because it is going to be most likely one of the underlying foundations of the economy, which means there's going to be a lot of fees getting paid out in QNT, and you know what that means. So, there's going to be a lot of leaks that's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of holes that need to be filled, and there's going to be a lot of security that needs to get established before we can fully transition. But that's why these projects are taking place, and that's why Quant is a part of it. So that's beautiful. Before we wrap this video up, let's take a look and see what some of these people are saying, what the Bank of England is saying, and what the BIS is saying. So just a brief thing from the Bank of England here. They say the bank presented findings from Project Rosalind, a project run jointly with the Bank of International Settlements Innovation Hub London Centre. Project Rosalind sought to design an application program interface, API, prototype for retail CBDC, along with a set of API standards and a sandbox which exposed the API on top of a sample CBDC system that allows participants to experiment with innovative payment use cases. And I hope that's a period. Wow, that was a run-on, if I ever did see one. The project delivered 30 plus use cases across payments, conditional payments, and integration with other products. A final report on Project Rosalind was published in June 2023. So that's when it finished, was this year in June. So here is the BIS, their look at it. Project Rosalind has demonstrated that well-designed API layer could work with different private sector applications and central bank ledger designs, that a set of simple, standardized API functionalities could support a diverse range of use cases. The completed initiative, a joint experiment run by the BIS Innovation Hub London Centre and the Bank of England around central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, developed 33 API functionalities. So this is important. They actually did develop new API functionalities and had these tested and explored more than 30 retail CBDC use cases. So again, like we were saying, one of the main things that they were testing here was use cases and how they could be utilized in the public and private sectors. So how they could be in retail, how they could help banking, how they could help the consumer, and how they could help the dispenser, if you will. So these use cases covered a broad range of domains for individuals and businesses, such as peer-to-peer transfers. We already know a ton about that. I'm sure if you guys are involved in crypto, you guys have made a lot of peer-to-peer transfers, so this is a no-brainer. Retail payments, which is cool, integrating crypto into retail payments and seeing how systems could be safe, secure, and follow regulations with that for goods and services and small value business transactions. Now, I've heard upon studies, especially looking into the Digital Pound Foundation, that they are looking to limit the actual amount of the CBDC that you can hold to, I think they were saying around $3,000, which will most likely just be the trial run for the greater vision of converting the economy into purely CBDC, purely digital. I mean, we went from gold to gold-backed money to money, And now we're going kind of to this weird little in-between phase of digital money and real money where we're doing e-transfers and Venmo, etc., PayPal, all of that. And now we're moving into actual digital money. It's just the way that things have worked for many, many years. I mean, even before that, we were going from having coins that were purely gold into less gold and less gold and less gold and less gold and so on. So there's always been this pattern of getting less and less and less and less. And obviously that's led to some not great things, but that's for another video. And we're going to talk about stuff like that in the future. But let's continue on with this. This is a cool one. A diverse range of payments options were tested, such as making retail CBDC payments online, in stores, and offline. That's a cool one. That was something I wouldn't have expected. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but clearly they've done testing and found that they've actually been able to do payments in an offline environment, which is super cool, with the use of near-field communication and via interactions with point of sale. So near-field communication sounds like tap, if you guys use tap, and via interactions with point of sale, QR codes, mobile phones, smart cards, biometric devices, and smart assistants. So those are all interesting things. Biometric devices, I don't think that's going to be brain chips. I think that's simply just probably like Face ID on a phone or something. I don't know why they mentioned this, but yeah, just trying to extend the article, I guess. And explored private sector programmability and micropayments. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is where we're seeing in the retail side of things more programmability and more use case. So that is where we got that from. The project looked at how a universal and extensible API layer could be developed to connect central bank and private sector infrastructures. So yes, of course, they're developing APIs. They're probably using Overledger, most likely, considering Gilbert Verdian is one of the key figures in Project Rosalind. Facilitate payments in CBDCs and support innovation. And you guys will notice I'm rushing a little bit. I just noticed this video is running about 24 minutes or so already at this point. So I don't want to bore you guys too much. However, I covered most of it. We're just going to finish this last few lines here, and then I'll let you guys go on your way. It was based on the two-tier CBDC model. The central bank issues CBDC and provides the ledger infrastructure, and the private sector offers user-facing services. The project also experimented with and provided valuable lessons on many key aspects of a retail CBDC system, such as API design, and these are all the things we talked about, guys. API design, privacy models, making sure that things are private, because that's obviously a big scare for a lot of people, and it's going to slow adoption. Security, another thing that's going to slow adoption if people don't feel it's secure, and the governments aren't going to adopt it, or rather the banks are not going to adopt it because they are going to be worried that it's not secure and they're going to get robbed. Standards, making sure everything is following regulatory standards. Offline payments, super cool. That would be amazing. That means I guess you wouldn't need internet to use it, which is interesting. I wonder how far that extends or how long you can go without. Private sector programmability. So that's another really cool one. So that'll be government controls essentially, and ecosystem roles and responsibilities. So basically how everything is going to function together. That's on private and public sectors and retail and distributor. So that's really all we got. We haven't actually got much information on their conclusions. And I know a lot of you have been mentioning there's a lot of kind of secrecy around CBDCs and their development, because nobody really knows how it's going to work, but they're trying to figure it out as they go. And if they say something and that's not how it works, there's going to be a lot of confusion. There's going to be a lot of FUD. There's going to be a lot of chaos ensuing. So we can only really speculate to a certain extent. And so I just want you guys to keep that in mind when we go over news like that, especially in Quant in general. Quant is a very, because it's a B2B business, there's a lot of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements that are going on between companies to show whether or not they're using Overledger, right? Because if there are any security flaws in Overledger that are found in the future, which I don't think there will be, because obviously Gilbert Verdian is a very intelligent man, and as well as Paulo Tasca and the developing team for Quant. But if there ever were, well then somebody can fabricate a list of everybody who's using Overledger and exploit all those companies. So there is a lot of NDAs and a lot of things like that, and they don't want that information being public. So as far as finding all the partners and things for Quant, it's not openly public knowledge, but we can assume based on this kind of news that Gilbert Verdian and the Quant team are doing a very good job at actually getting Quant out there and getting things resolved and really networking and connecting Overledger into all of these different systems and infrastructure. And we're looking at a CBDC right now. I want you to take a step back and really look at how incredible that is and ask yourself what other coin is doing something this large, right? I know other coins that are working with banks. I know XRP and coins like that are working with banks, but on this grand of scale where we're talking about developing a CBDC that could be part of, or that could be replacing, or rather working harmoniously with fiat currency, that's a completely different ballgame. They're not comparable. And so I think this is really important information. Like I said, guys, if you have a friend who has no idea about Quant, send him this video or send him my channel, because I do talk about Quant lots, and we'll get him sorted out, I promise you. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys learned something today. I know I dragged on a little bit. I had some spills of information where, I wasn't maybe super organized with my thoughts in some spaces, so I apologize. Sometimes I go on tangents. I'll work on it. But thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next video.